It's 2 a.m. and you're lying in the dark, staring at a ceiling that has no answers. Nothing is technically wrong, the day went fine, maybe even good, and yet, there it is again. That quiet ache with no name, that feeling of missing something you can't quite point to, like a word sitting on the tip of your tongue that never arrives. Maybe you replay a conversation from earlier, wondering why one sentence keeps echoing. Maybe you feel a flicker of envy towards someone, and then quickly shame yourself for feeling it. Maybe you just feel far away from yourself, like you're living 1 inch to the left of your own life. If this feels familiar, I want you to know, you're not broken and you're not alone. What you're brushing up against in these quiet, unguarded moments has a name. It's called your shadow self. Not the villain kind of shadow, not something dark or dangerous. Just the parts of you that got put away a long time ago. The anger that wasn't allowed. The sensitivity that was too much. The needs, the wants, the wildness. Folded up small and tucked into a drawer marked "Not Now," sometime around childhood. So you could stay loved, stay safe, stay chosen. That drawer hasn't disappeared. It's just been waiting, quietly, patiently, for you to come back and open it. Tonight, we're going to do that gently, together. By the end of this video, you will have asked yourself 3 questions. Just 3. Questions most people spend an entire lifetime avoiding because some part of them senses that the answers will change everything. And they might. These questions have a way of illuminating the exact patterns you've been trying to break, the relationships you keep repeating, the love you keep almost letting in, the version of yourself you keep almost becoming. So, let me say this clearly before we go any further. This isn't about fixing you. There is nothing broken here that needs repair. This is about meeting you, the whole you, even the parts that have been in the dark for a long, long time, especially those parts. Let's begin. Now that you know this ache has a name, let's understand where it actually comes from. Picture a house. A big, warm, lived-in house full of noise and dinner smells and the sound of footsteps on the stairs. Now, picture a child in that house. A child who cries a little too loudly, or gets angry a little too fast, or asks for love in a way that makes the grown-ups around them uncomfortable. And imagine that, somewhere along the way, that child learns, not through cruelty usually, but through 1,000 small moments, that certain parts of them are not welcome upstairs. The anger is too much. The sadness is inconvenient. The need is embarrassing. So, quietly, without anyone ever saying it out loud, that child learns to take those parts of themselves and carry them down to the basement. Down there, in the dark, those parts don't die. They wait. They grow up alone, unsupervised, unparented, but they don't disappear. And decades later, when you find yourself reacting way too strongly to something small, or craving approval like oxygen, or flinching at your own anger, that's not a flaw in your character. That's just the basement, knocking. This is what the psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow. Not evil, not dangerous, just exiled. The shadow is simply everything about us that once felt unsafe to show, so we sent it away to protect the relationship, the family, the belonging we needed to survive. And here's the tender part, the part I really want to land. Shadow work was never about excavating darkness for darkness's sake. It's not about becoming someone brooding or broken. It's about something much softer than that. It's about walking back down to that basement, not to punish what's down there, not to drag it upstairs and put it on display, but simply to open the door and say, I see you. You can come home now. And if you're realizing right now that you have a basement too, please hear this. So does every single person you have ever admired. Every calm, grounded, spiritually together person you follow, learn from, or aspire to be. They have one too. This isn't shameful. It isn't rare. It is, quite simply, the cost of having once been a child who needed to be loved. So instead of asking what's wrong with me, we're going to ask something gentler tonight. We're going to ask, what's still down there, waiting? That brings us to the first question. Let, quote, S, not just talk about the shadow anymore. Let's start meeting it. Here is the first question, and I want you to let it sit gently in your chest before you rush to answer it. What do I judge most in others? Not what you dislike, not what mildly annoys you. I mean the thing that really gets under your skin, the trait in another person that makes you want to roll your eyes or scoff or quietly think, God, could they be any more like that? Because here's the strange, humbling truth psychologists have observed again and again. The things that irritate us most in other people are very often echoes of something we buried in ourselves. Let me tell you about someone. We'll call her Amara. Amara couldn't stand attention-seeking people. You know the type, she'd say, posting constantly, always performing, always needing to be seen. It bothered her so much that she'd feel her jaw tighten, just watching someone light up a room. For years, she wore that irritation like a personality trait. I'm just not like that, she'd tell herself. I don't need attention. But one evening, in a quiet moment much like this one, she asked herself why it bothered her so much. And underneath the irritation, if she sat with it long enough, was something much softer, much sadder. A little girl who had once been told, quite clearly, that wanting to be seen was vain, selfish, too much. So she had learned, very young, to want it silently, to starve that need instead of feed it. And every person who dared to want attention out loud was, without meaning to, holding up a mirror to the very thing Amara had exiled in herself. That's the mirror principle. It doesn't mean everything that annoys you is secretly your shadow. Sometimes a red flag is just a red flag. But when a reaction feels disproportionate, when it comes with a tightness in the chest or a flare of something almost personal, that's usually a sign you're not just reacting to them. You're reacting to a part of you that had to go quiet a long time ago. So I want you to sit with this gently, not like an interrogation, but like a candle you're carrying into a room you haven't visited in a while. Who irritates you? What is it specifically that they do? And is it possible, just possible, that some small exiled part of you also wanted that? To be louder, to take up more space, to rest more, to say no more, to be first, or soft, or unapologetic, or free. You don't have to answer this fully right now. Just let the question exist. Let it float, unhurried, somewhere in the back of your mind as we keep going. Because there's a second question waiting, one that goes even closer to the source, Dot. If question 1 shows you the mirror, question 2 shows you the wound behind it. So, let's go there gently. Here's the second question. What did I have to hide to be loved? Take a breath before you answer that one. It's not a small question. Think back, not to search for blame, but simply to remember. Somewhere in your childhood, there were feelings that were welcomed and feelings that made the room go tense. Maybe your sadness made a parent uncomfortable, so you learned to cry quietly or not at all. Maybe your anger felt dangerous to someone bigger than you, so you learned to swallow it before it ever reached your voice. Maybe your ambition made someone feel threatened, so you learned to shrink your dreams down to a size that wouldn't disturb anyone. Maybe you were simply sensitive. You felt things deeply, noticed everything, cried at movies, absorbed the moods of every room you entered. And somewhere, someone sighed and said, "You're too much." And something in you quietly closed like a door. None of this was your fault. You were a child trying to survive inside a system of love that came with conditions, even if no one meant for it to. And children are remarkably intelligent that way. We learn very quickly which parts of us keep the love flowing and which parts put it at risk. So, we do the only thing we can. We fold the risky parts away. I think of it like letters we were never allowed to send. Somewhere inside you, there might be a letter that says, "I'm angry and I have every right to be." Another that says, "I'm allowed to want more than this." Another that simply says, "Please see how much I'm feeling right now." And instead of sending them, we folded them small, tucked them into a drawer, and told ourselves it was fine. We didn't need to send them anyway. But unsent letters don't disappear. They just wait for someone to finally open the envelope. So I want you to ask yourself, honestly, tenderly, which feeling did I learn to hide? Was it anger, sadness, neediness, ambition, softness, sensuality, joy that felt too loud? Whatever comes up, even if it surprises you, even if it stings a little, let it be true without judging it. This is usually the most vulnerable question of the three. And if you feel something rising in your chest right now, a lump in your throat, a heaviness, even tears, please know that's not you being dramatic. That's just the child inside you finally being asked, after all this time, what did they take from you? You don't have to fix this tonight. You don't have to send the letter yet. Just notice which one has been sitting there the longest. Because once we see what we hid to survive, we can finally ask what it would mean to live without hiding it. That's where the third question meets us, Dot. But shadow work isn't just about mourning what was hidden. It's about reclaiming it. So let's turn toward the light for a moment. Here is the third and final question. What would I do if I weren't afraid of being judged? Sit with that one for a second. Let it move through you slowly. Maybe an answer arrives instantly. A business you'd finally start, a relationship you'd finally leave, a painting you'd finally hang in your living room instead of hiding in a closet. Or maybe it arrives quieter than that. You'd laugh louder. You'd say no without over-explaining yourself. You'd wear the thing you actually love instead of the thing that blends in. You'd tell someone you miss them without waiting for them to say it first. Whatever surfaced just now, notice it, because that is not a random thought. That is the shadow finally speaking in its true voice, not as a wound, but as a compass. Here is something beautiful that most people never get told. The things we repress rarely vanish. They wait, fully intact, for the moment it feels safe enough to want them again. So often, our forgotten dreams and our disowned traits are not embarrassing. They're clues. They point quite precisely toward the life we actually want, the boundaries we need to set, the creativity we need to release, the joy we've been rationing like it might run out. Think of it like this. Somewhere in the house of you, there is a room that got locked a long time ago. Not because anything bad happened in it, but because someone once told you that room wasn't appropriate to enter, so you lost the key. Or maybe you hid it yourself, so well that you forgot you ever had it. This question, what would I do if I weren't afraid of being judged, is that key. And I don't want this question to just live in this video and then disappear the moment you close the app. So here is something small I'd love for you to actually do tonight. Take a moment, right now, or the second this video ends, and write this question down. On a sticky note, in your phone notes, on the back of a receipt. It doesn't matter. Just write, what would I do if I weren't afraid of being judged? And place it somewhere you'll see before you fall asleep tonight. Your nightstand, your mirror, your pillow. Let it be the last thing your mind touches before you drift off. You don't need the full answer tonight. You just need to let the question exist near you, quietly. The way an unlocked door exists. Not demanding you walk through it, just letting you know it's no longer sealed shut. Because that's really what all of this has been about. Not fixing, not forcing, just unlocking. And now, as we come to a close, I want to talk about what to do with everything you've uncovered tonight. I want to be honest with you about something before we finish tonight. None of this heals in one sitting. The basement doesn't empty in a single evening. And that unlocked room doesn't fully open just because you found the key. This is not a video that fixes you. It never was. This is simply an invitation. The first gentle knock on a door you've been walking past for years. Integration, the kind that actually lasts, is slow. It's not a single breakthrough. It's 1,000 small moments of choosing to look instead of look away. It's noticing your irritation and asking what is this really about one more time next week. It's catching yourself hiding a feeling and, just once, letting it exist instead. It's a lifelong walk back home to yourself, taken one soft step at a time. So, if you didn't have a dramatic realization tonight, that's all right. Sometimes the shadow doesn't answer loudly. Sometimes it just quietly stirs. And that's enough for one evening. Before you go, I want to offer you one small ritual. Not homework, just an act of gentle witnessing. Somewhere in the comments below, I'd love for you to leave just one word. Just one. A single word that surfaced while you sat with these questions tonight. Maybe it was anger, or attention, or freedom, or tired, or even scared. You don't need to explain it. You don't need context, or a story, or permission. Just leave the word. Because there is something quietly powerful about a comment section full of single words. Grief, joy, rage, softness, hope, all sitting there together, unexplained and unjudged, each one a small piece of someone's basement finally seeing daylight. You writing your word means someone else, scrolling late at night, just like you are now, will read it and feel a little less alone in their own dark room. And maybe you'll do the same for them. So, if it's late where you are right now, and you found this video in the middle of a moment that felt a little too much like that 2 a.m. ache we started with, I don't think that's an accident. I think some part of you has been waiting to ask these questions for a long time, and tonight, it finally felt safe enough to listen. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to keep coming home to yourself, gently, one honest question at a time. If this found you tonight, stay close. Come back next week, and we'll keep walking this road together, deeper into the rooms that are still waiting for you. Until then, rest well. You are not broken. You were just waiting to be found.